Welcome, Kirk. Thank you very much. My name's Dan Kruger. I'm with Newconomy. I know we've spoken before. And if you want to just introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, your age.
Sure. My name is Kirk McMurray. I'm originally from New York. I'm in New York right now. I was born here. However, I spent a lot of time overseas. I lived in Portugal, Tokyo, London for a little bit, and around the northeast of the U.S., but I'm back home and happy to be here. And as far as my background, right now I've been deep inside blockchain technology and machine learning, and I run a small labs consulting firm.
So let me ask you then. We'll get into I just want, there's a few things, obviously, everybody wants to know where to invest, any strategy that you might have. But
Yeah.
just looking back slightly, so last year was huge. I mean, this is basically
Yes.
breakout year for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general and altcoins and all of that. So
Yeah.
what do you think was the driving factor behind that? And then moving into 2018 now, where it's become somewhat stable, but it's not as volatile as it was last year, obviously. But what do you think drove was it media? Was it just, everybody sort of looking for alternative?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people that try to have one, a unified theory or like one key explanation. I feel like it's one of those things where like multiple years later, when we look back on history and we learn and we look at all the data, we might be able to come up with that mechanism. Right now, there's a lot of hypotheses. I mean, one big thing is obviously that, there was a bit of a winter in 2014, 15, 16. And, a lot of the hype seemed to sort of drop down a bit. And that led to like a lot of just building and time that passed that sort of allowed the second wave of altcoins to sort of be born. So back in the day, there was originally Bitcoin, then there were some early movers that were like, that came after Bitcoin. And there were a bunch of these like first wave of alts that most of them are not worth very much today, right? Then there was like really led by Ethereum was this sort of second wave, and Ripple was born, a few years back as well. And so there were some key projects that just needed a little bit of time to develop and get to a certain point of maturity. So I think like with Ethereum and Ripple, we can get into like whether you like XRP and Ripple and Ethereum or not, but like just from a pure like standpoint of like great teams, great projects with technology that was at least getting, into alpha stages, and the currency associated with that sucked in a huge amount of capital. And I think honestly, retail investors were looking at Bitcoin's price and thinking people are still not rational that way. They don't want to own a tenth of a Bitcoin or a quarter of a Bitcoin, or they want to like buy one. And so when something came in at a price point like Ethereum and Litecoin, where you could be like, oh, I can buy 10 of them. I think that psychologically people just think of that as like they want to own multiple units of something. And so basically I think a huge amount of capital was like, came up with rationalization as to why these other currencies are going to be, maybe bigger than Bitcoin. And it just basically made it really easy for a lot of new money to enter the space. Now, I think, that's just only one element of it. I think, the ICOs in 2017 started to take a huge dent out of the traditional angel and venture capital approach towards investment. And so you actually saw a lot of investment money, not just retail folks that are just end users that are buying coins directly, but you saw people that invest in startups starting to say, hey, we can not only invest in this new wave of technology, but the entrepreneurs could raise capital in ways that were, that really actually made, so all this stuff that was going on in the background and crowdfunding, especially in the US with like Kickstarter, which is donations, and then equity crowdfunding, and the Jobs Act, which finally made it legal for non-accredited investors to invest small amounts. That was sort of obliterated by crypto, which came in and said, well, we don't know if it's a security or not, but like every person that can figure it out, how to hack it together at home or watch some YouTube videos, can like use their laptop or their mobile phone and buy a piece of these new projects. Now, again, I think that this led to like a huge euphoria, and there was like this latent demand for regular people that can, play in the stock market or put their money in a savings account or buy real estate, but they were like left out of the technology investment world, because unless you were a credit investor and you had a great Rolodex that could get you into deals, a regular guy that might even, be making a few $100,000 a year. So he's not like, he's doing well, but he might not meet the credit investor requirement, or even if he technically does, he doesn't consider himself an angel investor. He's now like, oh wait, you mean I can buy like 100, 500, 1,000, $10,000 of these alternative asset, this new asset class. And so I do think like it's like it allowed, you know, not only in the US, but globally. So there's two factors. In the US, these non-accredited folks that felt left out of being able to get into like high yield opportunities in startups can now just, they didn't need to get permission. They could just buy tokens in either existing cryptos or ICOs that were launching new projects.
So thanks, Kirk. I appreciate your help, man. And I will, I'll shoot you a text after and I'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.